Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Paladin Dance, and today I'm going to be going over my current Protection Paladin Mythic Plus build. Now I'm going to be covering talents, I'm going to be going over your stats, going to be going over the legendaries, and I'll be going over covenants. So I'm going to be covering just about everything you would ever want for a Mythic Plus build. If you're not so into Mythic Plus, I'm going to be going over how I got to 1800 rating. So I'll be going over, how to PvP, not just for red and protection, but, just in general. So I'll be going over that soon. And if you have any ideas, if you want to see anything in particular, just leave them down in the comments below. And with that said, let's get right into it. My favorite type of content right now, and since Legion is Mythic Plus, it has been ever since it came out. Every season there's a new seasonal affix. I can push higher and higher. It just gives me something to do aside from just raiding and being done after raiding or PvPing endlessly. So here I am with my current build. I'm going to just go right into it, starting off with the talents. Now, your first row, you have basically two choices. You have either Holy Shield or Blessed Hammer. I'll go over Redoubt real quick. Now, this will give you a little bit of stamina and strength, which is good, but it's only going to stack up to 6%. And right now, since we're early in the expansion, we don't have that much total HP. We don't have that much strength, right? These numbers are all going to be bigger later on down the road. Maybe later on down the road, Redoubt will gain a little bit more value, but right now, as is, not really worth. It's not going to give you as much value as these other two talents, all right? You have Holy Shield, which is going to increase your block chance, and now you can block spells as well, which is going to be good for bosses. I really like Holy Shield. However, in the current situation that we have, I end up going Blessed Hammer, and that is because, as you can see here, I only have 18% haste, right? So we're early on in the expansion. We don't have that much haste. If I had 25% haste, I might go Holy Shield, but since I don't, I end up going with the Blessed Hammer because it gives me an extra charge of the hammer, which is going to mean that I can get that extra holy power every once in a while, right? And right now I find myself to be starved for holy power at times, so I end up going with Blessed Hammer in this row. Second row, 100%, if you're doing Mythic Plus, you're going to end up going First Avenger. First Avenger is going to give you a shield for 100% of the damage that you do, and this is going to synergize not just with your Avenger shield, obviously, but your Divine Toll. So when you use Divine Toll, not only are you going to be doing a ton of damage, but you're also going to be shielding yourself for, I'd say, about 25% on average, sometimes maybe like 35% of your HP. So that's going to be basically a defensive for you as well as an offensive ability in dungeons. Now, you can go Crusader's Judgment if you'd like, especially if you maybe don't have the Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil legendary. You have something else. If you go with these two talents right here, you're never going to run out of holy power. But for end of dungeon healing, if you look at your meters, First Avenger is going to be right up there with Word of Glory. So this is definitely a must-have in my opinion. Third row, really easy. Usually you just go Blinding Light. It's going to give you that AoE Disorient, which is going to incapacitate some enemies. You'll be able to kick some kicks that are usually unkickable, kind of like if you had a knockback. Or you'll be able to kick multiple enemies at one time. You can't go Fist of Justice. There's an argument to be had in certain dungeons where you don't really need that many AoE kicks, and you can go Fist. Usually I just go Blinding Light. I don't even bother going with Fist of Justice most of the time. In M+, I've not found myself needing Blessing of Spell Warding that much. In BFA I did want it a little bit more. Cavalier is always nice to have, but usually I go Unbreakable Spirit, and that is because paired with Final Stand, my Divine Shield is down to 3.5 minute cooldown instead of 5, which is huge. And your Ardent Defender goes down to 1.4 minutes. So this is down from 2 minutes. So every 1.5 minutes, a little bit less than that, you get to have one of your best defensives and also a cheat death. This also pairs well with one of your conduits called Resolute Defender, which means that you're going to be getting Ardent Defender up usually about every minute or so. You'll have Ardent Defender up. So this talent is my go-to right now in M+. This row right here, Holy Avenger, honestly, a 3-minute cooldown, not really worth that much. Seraphim, it might be worth a little bit later on down the road. Has kind of the same problem as Redoubt, where early on we don't have that much stat. It's not going to give you that much benefit. Right now, Divine Purpose by far the best talent. This is going to give you a 15% chance to make your holy power abilities empowered. So every once in a while, you'll get this proc, and it means your next Shield of the Righteous will be doing 25% more, or 20% more damage, or better yet, your Word of Glory is going to be healing you 20% more. So it's going to give you even more survivability when compared to these other two talents. Going into the third row, Consecrated Ground used to be my go-to. I used to be able to kite a lot of enemies by having this down, because it remove the move speed by, it would reduce their movement speed by 50%. I do go Hand of the Protector now though, because this used to be a talent that would increase the healing of an ally's missing health, but now it increases the healing of the target missing health. So this includes yourself. So now, especially with Paladins being a less tanky, more more damage focused class, where you do more damage but you're less tanky as when compared to other tanks, this Hand of the Protector is really going to help you sustain yourself in M+. And then in M+, if you're doing any kind of keys, honestly, you're probably just going to end up going Final Stand, because it makes your Divine Shield the best defensive in the game. You just get to Divine Shield and you stand there for 8 seconds. You don't drop aggro of anything. Your healer can catch up. You don't have to worry about healing yourself. You're not taking any damage. You lose, you take out any debuffs. That's about it. The Final Stand, I mean, you're always going to use this. So that's my talent build for M+. I would say that these are all pretty much set in stone. You can maybe switch around, for Cavalier, Spell Warning if you'd like. Unbreakable Spirit, not set in stone. Same thing with Blessed Hammer. I've seen a lot of people still use Holy Shield, and they do fine. I just prefer Blessed Hammer. But I would say First Avenger, Divine Purpose, Hand of the Protector, those are very important talents that you should be using in an N+ environment. Now, moving on to the Legendaries. So far, I've only crafted 2. And those are the Bulwark of Righteous Fury and the Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil. Now, I started off with the Bulwark of Righteous Fury, and this legendary makes you do a ton of damage. What it does is your Avenger Shield increases your next Shield of the Righteous damage by 30% for each target hit, which goes up to 5 times. So you get a 150% extra damage Shield of the Righteous. Now, this is your highest output legendary that you're going to have in an M+ setting. It's going to make you do almost as much damage as a DPS class. But I think that for now, the Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil, especially if you're pushing higher dungeons, I'm starting to get into 15s, probably in the 16s, 17s next week, I hope. I think that the Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil is a lot better for that, and that is because this is going to give you a lot of Avenger Shield resets. And as we went over earlier, I'm going First Avenger. So I've had times where I get literally 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've had up to like 10, I think was the record, which has not happened that often, but usually I get about 2 to 4 resets on my Avenger Shield, and that's going to give me a good shield, especially if I'm in an AoE pack. So at the end of dungeon, you're going to have a lot more healing, a lot more sustain with this legendary than you would with the other one. I think these two legendaries are the best right now for M+. Now you could argue that you can go the Magistrate's Judgment, because this will reduce the cost of your holy power spenders, which means that you'll have more uptime on Shield of the Righteous, and you'll also have more WOGs, you'll have more Words of Glory going off. However, at the end of dungeon, honestly, First Avenger, I think right now just carries you a lot. It gives you a lot of sustain, and I think that the Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil is going to be a much better choice. It's probably the tankiest one, to be honest, right now. Prot Paladin doesn't really have that many tanky legendaries. They're not like Druids, where, like you get a huge shield when you thrash a lot, stuff like that. They're missing something like that. but I think right now Holy Avengers is going to be your all-arounder. You're still going to be doing a lot of damage with the resets, almost comparable to the Bulwark of Righteous Fury, but you're going to be getting more sustain while Bulwark doesn't provide you anything. Now finally for your stats in M+, haste is going to be your main one. The more haste you have, the more holy power you will generate, the more Shield of the Righteous uptime you will have, the more Words of Glory you'll be able to get off. Essentially, the more haste you have, the tankier you'll be, the more sustain you'll have. Second is going to be Mastery. Now, Mastery does a ton of stuff for Paladins. First off, it increases your block chance. Second, it's going to reduce the damage you take in your consecration. So the more Mastery you have, the less damage you take in your consecration. And it's going to increase your attack power. So this stat it gives you a lot more than just crit, right? Crit chance just gives you crit chance, right? Meanwhile, if you stack Mastery, you're getting the benefit of 3 things, and they all help you with tanking. Lastly, you'll use versatility, because the more verse you have, the less damage you'll take, but this is really going to be like the third stat. You're not going to worry about this one as much as you are haste and then Mastery. Now once you hit like a haste Mastery cap, you'll definitely want to get in a little bit of versatility. Blizzard did nerf stats in Shadowlands, so I don't think you're going to be stacking as heavy as you were before. You'll probably end up getting, to some sort of cap at maybe, I don't know, 25% haste, maybe 23-ish, 25% mastery, and then you'll put the rest into versatility. And that's going to be it for the stats for M+. Covenant for Mythic Plus. So really there's only one choice when it comes to Covenants for Mythic Plus for Protection Paladin, and it's just going to be Kieran. That's because you're going to be getting your Divine Toll, which I went over a little bit earlier, but let's go over a little bit more in depth now. The biggest thing with Divine Toll is that, first off, it's on a 1-minute cooldown. So you're going to be able to use this just about every pack in a Fortified week, if not every other pack. So you're going to have a lot of uptime on it. Now as for what it actually does, you're going to be casting 5 Avenger Shields, which all bounce just the same as one Avenger Shield, right? So my Avenger Shield bounces up to 5 times. It's going to cast 5 of them, and all of them are going to be bouncing X amount of times. So what does this entail in a Mythic Plus environment? It does a lot of things, so let's go over this. First off, as you can see, it's going to gain you 5 holy power. So ideally what you want to do is you maybe go into a pool, you use your Avenger Shield, you throw out a Judgment, you put down your Consecration, yada yada. You spend all your holy power, and then you would use your Divine Toll. Boom, you get 5 holy power back immediately. So you're going to want to be using this whenever you're at 0 holy power. So it's a holy power generator. What else does it do? Like I mentioned before, it synergizes with your first Avenger talent. So it's going to give you a shield that's going to be about 35% of your HP. So it's also a defensive tool that you use if you spec into that talent. What else does it do? You're going to interrupt all your enemies. So when you go into your pug group and everyone either doesn't interrupt or everyone interrupts the very first cast and nobody has any more interrupts left, you use your Divine Toll. Not only will you interrupt your target, you're going to interrupt literally every single mob in the pack. So you're going to have a lot of utility from Divine Toll. You're also going to be able to group packs. So every once in a while you'll have, like a caster. Maybe this dude's a caster over here or over there. You hit your Divine Toll, your shield's going to hit them, and then they're going to walk towards the rest of the group. So it helps you group up mobs as well. The utility on this ability is unparalleled when compared to anything else you could get from all of the other Covenants. It gives you too much value. So again, going over what this does for us, you're going to get a lot of holy power generation. You're going to do a lot of damage, build a lot of threat. You're going to also get a defensive because your first Avenger is going to give you a shield for all 5 of your shields bouncing around. So you're getting a defensive ability. You're going to silence everything, and you're also going to be gathering mobs in. Now, the other reason we go Kieran is because of our Swolkins. Our little owls, right? So this dude, really the only relevant thing for the Swolkin in M+ is going to be the File of Serenity. Now this is a separate cooldown from your normal HP potion. It's going to be different from your health stone. It's separate from all of that. So it's going to just be another healing cooldown essentially, like kind of like a little defensive. And it removes all diseases, poisons, curses, and bleeds. So it's almost like having another fire blood, right? So for me, as a prot paladin, something like necrotic is an absolute joke. I don't even worry about it, right? Because I can drop it with divine shield, I can drop it with blessing of protection, I can fire blood, I can use my file of serenity, or I can just run away, right? I have a lot of options to deal with something like necrotic, and something like going Kieran with the File of Serenity is going to give you that kind of utility, even if you're not a protection paladin. That's why a lot of tanks just go Kieran in the first place. But for prot paladin, obviously, this is just going to be more icing on the cake. So when it comes to that, Kieran is definitely going to be by far the best choice you can get for prot paladin in M+. Now, the only other choice you would really have is Venthyr. And if you're mainly a raider or a PvPer, your choice, I would say that your main choice is definitely to go Venthyr. And Venthyr is still good in M+. It's just not as good as Kieran, because I get to use Divine Toll every minute. Meanwhile, if you go Venthyr, you get Ashen Hallow, which is essentially just a humongous consecration that does a ton of damage and a lot of healing. And it lets you use your Hammer of Wrath while you're sitting in it, and your Hammer of Wrath will do a lot more damage. So it's a lot better for a raid environment or a PvP environment. It's still good in M+, but the only problem is it has a 4-minute cooldown. So for every Ashen Hallow that I can use 4 Divine Tolls. And like I said earlier, you already saw all the utility that this provides, and you're going to get all that utility once every minute instead of once every 4 minutes. So when it comes to M+, Kieran is going to be your choice for Protection Paladin. And that's going to be it for the video, guys. It's going to wrap it up. If you have any questions about the M+ build, if you have any other builds that you've seen or that you've done and tried and you want to put in the comments, go ahead. I'd love to see any new ideas or stuff I've missed. Aside from that, you can catch me at twitch.tv/PaladinDan. I'll be trying to stream every once in a while. You guys can head over there if you'd like to see some M+. Usually is what I'll try and end up streaming. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get up to that 1K subscriber mark. Stay tuned for my next videos. I'm going to be going over how to get better in Mythic+, how to raise your IO score, how to put groups together, stuff like that. I'll also be going over how to get to 1800, at least how I got to 1800. So stay tuned. I'm going to be putting out a couple more videos in the near future. With that said, have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next one.